Hey groovy people. So I had an idea about my groovy minute, but it changed because I got some news from a friend, and I just really want to put this out there. Have you ever thought about, like, what if your kid with their obsessive needs happened to, I think about Justin. He definitely enjoys the free store. We have a free store here, and he goes in and he takes like a bunch of like shirts and socks, and sometimes he just puts them on right there, and then he, pretty much pushes his way out and gets it to the car and is pretty obsessive about keeping it. And I worry about, with the protocol of most law enforcement, what if he was running? Like, what if he took something that someone had because he wanted it, and he ran, and he's a big guy, and, people told him to stop. What would happen next? Are you guys scared of my son? I see that many people don't even know what autism means. It means a lack of understanding of social norms, a lack of ability to follow those norms, and a lack of comprehension on the laws and rules that we all place in our society. So, with all of those deficits or differences, I sometimes wonder why we're trying to teach behavior therapy to kids that you just want them to obey. And then once they get bigger, like my son, he just knew he was bigger and he didn't have to follow those rules anymore. Aren't there better things we can do, like heal our kids and engage with them, and things like the Sunrise program that change the elasticity, the plasticity of the brain, changing the toxic levels of the things that are out there that are changing the brain, and also just changing our society so that it's not so black and white, because kids with autism, that's all they see, like black and white. It's like my way or the highway, really, because that's, I tried to explain this to one of my guys that works for me, because it's a huge platform of mine. So let's say you're obsessive compulsive, like Justin, and you think you need to have 10 layers of socks on all the time, or you're just gonna freak out, and you can't stop thinking about it. Your body and your mind just like spin constantly. All you think about is how I'm gonna get more socks, how am I gonna get more socks, and you think, I gotta get, all he does with his iPod Pro is, we gotta get to the free store, we gotta go to Target to get some free socks, or some mangoes. Really, these needs and requests of Justin's are real. They think they're real to him. They're not just pretend. They actually consume him. So, why would we wouldn't like take a brace off of someone who needed it to walk and say, walk, you can walk, and take a wheelchair away from a kid, or a hearing aid away from someone, and say, here, I know you can hear, you've got the capacity. But yet with kids with autism, we say, it's only behavior based. You have the capacity to understand these things, and we're going to expect it out of you. And I think expect big things. I'm not one to say don't expect things from my kids, but don't expect things without tons of work and some really great plans on how those things are going to come about. I think the plan of behavior therapy is a crappy one, because it really is just like about making kids behave in school or look behaved, and it doesn't change the way they think, and it doesn't make them any more independent. It doesn't make them ready for this world and to navigate it. It makes them available to sit in a desk and do what they're told. And that's really what we're teaching in public school, and all of our kids are failing miserably, not just kids with autism. The world is spinning around us, and we haven't come up with any good ideas, I think. Maybe we've come up with some, but they're not what are the main ideas being used. So that's just a question I have. It's been a great concern of mine lately. It's been a really big impact on my decision to move back to Olympia, because I think that there's so much less understanding in Washington in general, because there's so many fewer laws, so many fewer people aware of autism, that it makes me weary of moving back and thinking, oh, you know, who is, how are we going to manage there? And how will my kids navigate life there? And how will they navigate it here? The only options for me here are institutionalize my kid if they don't obey. So we've got a really large dichotomy in a state with no laws or accommodations for kids, and in a state with tons of them. But really, all we do is hide the kids away and teach them to behave. And even then, when they get to be older and we haven't taught them to behave and they haven't learned it with all of those wonderful interventions we've taught, they get to go to private school away from everybody else, or in a room away from everybody else. And that's supposed to teach them to behave and to be more independent. Yeah, it's kind of a pain to think about these things, but that's what I think about every moment. So, welcome to my world, my little mind. Things to consider. And what about, Brianna? What if she was charged with a crime? She'd just be treated like everyone else. Even though she wouldn't be able to comprehend, she'd need someone's help to comprehend these things, but because she can talk, people might think that she's capable of, all these things. I don't know. Mommy's worries, and sending love and peace to all of you who need it out there, who are a little bit overwhelmed, a lot overwhelmed. Peace, love.